Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, addicts of all ages, welcome to Canadian Sober, eh? I'm your host and resident alcoholic, Dougie Fresh. So glad you're with us. I hope you grabbed your popcorn and your sparkling water, whatever sparkling water you prefer, because today's guest is a doozy. And I have, I was thinking about this the other day. Actually, my producer and I were thinking about it last week. What is it like being on the other side of addiction? What is it like experiencing that, seeing that, living with that? And that's a story that we don't tell too often. So today's guest, I hope, will shine a little light on maybe her experiences with that, and maybe tell us a little bit about the movements that she's started and movements that she's continuing to do. So please give a great Canadian Sobre welcome to Yvonne. How you doing today, Yvonne?
Yay, I'm just living the dream. Doug, how you doing today?
Doing fantastic, sober and fantastic. Yvonne, you're the author of a book called Love Your Life to Death.
That's correct.
And you were the host of a Rogers. You're a former Rogers, TV host yourself. You had a show called Real Life Talks.
Yeah.
And you also have a movement that you started. Are you wearing the bracelet? You have a bracelet that you're doing, and it's called I Just Showed Up movement. So please, people at home eating your popcorn, drinking your sparkling water, please give it up to Yvonne. Yvonne, please tell us how you're doing in life today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and maybe talk about what it's like being on the other side of addiction.
Well, thank you so much. Just so I don't forget, I am digging the new flow. I like the hair.
I'm not.
So I will start as my name is Yvonne Heath, and I am an author, speaker, and compassionate disruptor. And also, I've binged so many of your shows. I've heard so many of your guests. So I heard you have alcoholics and normies, right, Normie? And I would say that I'm a hybrid. I'm an abnormie, because perhaps I'm not an alcoholic, but I will tell you that alcohol did disrupt my life many, many times, over and over and over. So back 60 years, I was born. Hello, just turned 60. That's right. Woohoo! And proud to be 60. When people say, oh, we shouldn't talk about our age, I say, there's many people who don't make it to 60 that would just love to have the privilege of wrinkled hair. So let's always embrace every age. Grew up in Northern Ontario, and as so many of your drinking was normal, right? Normal parties, that meant you were having fun. High school, I wanted to fit in. And it's funny because people who know me now, and I say, I was so shy and I was uncomfortable in my own skin and didn't feel like I fit in. We moved all the time, and had my first drink in grade 9, and I loved it. It was like, ooh, I feel like I fit in, I'm cool, I'm more relaxed. And my drinking continued, and we partied hardy I lived in a mining town every weekend. And I made a lot of bad decisions. People talk about blackouts and throwing up and making bad decisions. Absolutely. So was I an alcoholic? Perhaps not. However, it didn't ruin my life, but it interfered with my life. Right? I made a lot of bad decisions. So fast forward, I became a nurse, and I went to Texas. I was a traveling nurse, continued on days off, and I met a Navy boy, and we got together. I became pregnant, and when I was 8 months pregnant, and of course the partying stopped for me, I kind of realized, I've married an alcoholic, because the drinking continued all the time. Now I'm 8 months pregnant, so I'm going to have to make this work some way, somehow. Moving forward, we went to Al-Anon, and AA, Al-Anon, they're all incredible. However, I met these women who were going to Al-Anon, and I snuck out. My ex did not know I was going, and they had been going for 20 years, and their spouses were still drinking. And I had my son Tyler at that time, and I said, I need a better life for him and for me. And, kudos to people who stick to it. I have to salute your wife, Doug. I'm letting you know, she stuck by, like, wow, incredible. And it's amazing to see people get through it with love and support. I knew that we wouldn't be able to do that. And it's funny because I've now reconnected with my ex, and it's 30 years later, and he's been sober for 3 years only. So that would have been a long journey. And I am so proud of him, but that would have been a long 30 years. Wow. So when I got divorced, I moved to Huntsville, Ontario, trying to figure out, you have your vision board, your vision of your life. This wasn't it. I was like, what happened to my life? This is not what I wanted. And, but I knew I had to make a good life for my son. I thought we were going to go live somewhere sunny and warm, and I'm still in Huntsville, Ontario, shoveling lots of snow these past few months. And Tyler was doing well, as a single mom, and I was working at the hospital, and I was so in love with my son and wanted to give him a good life. And 2003, there had been a couple of years of a little innocent flirting with a paramedic, and ended up marrying him. Then we had twins. I had twins 3 weeks before my 40th birthday. So I thought, we are the Heath family 5. I've given Tyler this wonderful life. How amazing. Things are great. Now, we still did, from time to time, drink too much. Red wine was sort of my fallback. As a nurse, I was like funny and I was compassionate, but I did not have strategies to navigate grief personally and professionally. So then you throw in a crisis. When Ty was 16, he had a severe, he had dreams of being a professional snowboarder. He wrecked his knee. So not only were his dreams crushed, and he couldn't drive and he couldn't do anything, he was on the couch and he was in a lot of pain. And I believe that was sort of the catalyst to his long journey with drugs and addiction and alcohol. And again, we normalize, fun with partying and smoking pot is fun, and snowboarding, you smoke pot and it's fun. And so that carried on, and it really became problematic. And I worked in chemotherapy, and we had these little twins, and this kid was it was like, you're trying to save him from himself. And by luck, he was in Waterloo and got arrested, and we had to go there and pick him up. And we drove him to a rehab in Quebec. The most terrifying thing, I have to say, is driving your child to a rehab. And here's Tyler saying, well, the age is 18, the age of majority is 18 there. Maybe I can get a job at a bar part-time. I'm like, yeah, when you're in rehab, that's what you should do. Let's just keep driving. And I came home, and the next day we had our twins' 7th birthday party with, smiles on our face, bags under our eyes. And I have to say, bringing your 18-year-old to rehab, it was just gut-wrenching. And, you can't believe, like, you love this person so much and you just can't save them from themselves. Thank goodness rehab changed things. And he moved home, and he knew he had to get out of Huntsville, so he went out west. And that's where he was for 12 years. And to sort of back up, when he was going through all of this, I would see people, I'm a healthcare professional, my husband's a paramedic, and we were going through all this, and Tyler got arrested at school. And it was very public, it was mayhem. And honestly, people were like, hey, how's that thing with Tyler, as they're running away. And so you kind of felt like the expectation was to pretend you're fine when you're not. Right. And I would go to work at the hospital, and people would avoid me. And I started I'm looking around going, like, where are people? Like, why aren't they asking me how we're doing? This is the hardest part of my journey here in my life. And so it was just very telling. And so I started to pay more attention, and I started to say, like, are we healthcare professionals well prepared for grief, trauma, crisis? And everyone's like, oh God, no, we're terrible at it. And why are you talking about this? So it just kind of made me say, there's something wrong here. And the more I went to work and the more, Tyler was out west and everything we had gone through, I said, there's something wrong with this picture. And I sort of took the blinders off and I started digging in. And I said to my husband, I have to do something. I don't know what it is, but I have to do something. And there was this pop-up on Facebook, how to write a best-selling book. I said, oh my God, that's it. I'm going to leave my 27-year nursing career and address this grief phobia, death phobia, and we're not having conversations. And I made him a little nervous because I wasn't a writer. And, it's incredible what you are capable of when, you say, when passion and purpose kidnap you. And I know you know this only too well. I know you didn't ever think you'd be a TV host, right? And so that's where my book, Love Your Life to Death, was born. And it was interview people ages 11 to 101 who had been in the deep trenches of grief and got to the other side, and it changed my life. A few years after that, and many adults read the book and they thought it was great. And I said, it really doesn't matter what the grief is in our lives, whether it's crisis, abuse, homelessness, addiction, whatever it may be. It's all grief. And I don't think people understand the connection, between mental health and addiction and being ill prepared for grief. We don't know. And there's so much grief in addiction and there's so much loss in life. And just because you are going through a lot of terrible things with addiction doesn't mean that your dog might die, your grandmother, and, we do not make the connection. So moving forward, September 2023, our twins were going away to university. We were going to have our empty nest for the first time in 30 years. Woohoo! Grief and joy in that, right? Acknowledge and allow all the feelings, which we need to get better at doing. 9 days later, I got a phone call from the person Tyler was living with in Arizona. Tyler's life is spiraling out of control. I'm afraid he's not going to live. And a few phone calls later, we got on a plane to Kelowna and moved him home. And guess what? You'll love this. Beautiful, naive mother. So like, what? We sent him out west. He didn't have the coping skills and strategies. He didn't have his family. I'm going to bring him home and I'm going to love him sober. Mama Bear is, I am on it. I am going to just show up, because that's what the I just showed up movement, when you don't know what to do, don't know what to say, just show up. And I was ready. Well, how do you think that went? Let me just tell you. Those 10 months on that roller coaster were the worst 10 months of my entire life. And, the hardest part, honestly, was watching his guilt and shame and remorse, self-loathing every single time he relapsed, and desperate to do better next time. And then he said it would just grip me. It was like my life. It was so hard to watch. And I said, I will do anything I can for you. I cannot watch you kill yourself. And I had all the books and the audio books, and I had, everybody on speed dial to help me, and it was too much. So he ended up going back to the States, and then he made his way back to Kelowna. He went right back into full addiction, living in trap houses and ODing, hearing all of this stuff. And he is now in an incredible recovery center called Freedom's Door. And I am in absolute awe, because it isn't 30 days in a bubble and then released. It is a 90-day first stage program, and then another 90 days, and then you can live in sober living for up to 2 years. And it is actually reasonably attainable price. It's a charitable organization. And, to watch the community, how they've just shown up for them. Big White Ski Resort just sent these guys free ski passes and rentals so they could go and have fun. They want to incorporate fun in recovery. It's extraordinary. So with this journey and everything, I've realized how we have missed the correlation between being ill prepared for grief, for those who are struggling with addiction, and for their loved ones. I have now embarked on my own journey of recovery. And as he was on the 90 days, I started reading day 1, day 2 of this 90-day journey. By day 9, I realized that this will be my next book. And I realized that I had written all the way back to 2007, 2014, and the 10 months he was home. And I am going to share my journey so that people understand what it's like. And when people think, oh, they're addicts, why don't they just stop? Well, if anyone read how desperate my son was to stop, to be better, to do better, only to fall victim to this addiction again. Like if they're convinced that he did everything he could and continues to. And so I want to shine a little light on that. And I also want people to be able to just show up. We need our compassionate communities. We need everyone on these journeys as those who are supporting someone with addiction and those with addiction. And we need to just show up with heart, humor, and humanness before, during, and always. And let's not wait till it's a big crisis. Along the way, if you see something, say something. If you're concerned about someone, it's like cancer. Do not wait until it's stage 4 spread. If you don't ignore the lump, right? And people also think, oh, this isn't my business. Well, you know what? Let's stop minding our own business, right? Let's be responsible for each other in our compassionate communities and love one another and just show up no matter what someone is going through. That's all I have to say about that.
That was fantastic, Yvonne. That was amazing. Wow, you fit so much into that 15 minutes that geez, I don't even know where to start. But I gotta say kudos to you for starters. And then getting back together with your ex. Did you say your ex's name? I'm sorry. What?
His name is Rob, and we are certainly not. We reconnected. I kept the love of my life, Jordy.
Okay, so
yes.
So
but I reached
Rob,
out to him when Tyler was struggling out west, and I wanted to know if he could be a support, and I wanted to make sure he was sober first, and he is, and I was very happy to hear that. And I said, the more people that help you, the better.
That's amazing. One thing was circling around in my head as you were sharing, and with all the knowledge that you've had, all the shows that you've done, all the people you've interviewed, doing your TED Talk and doing all this stuff. You said, when your son Tyler was, that moment that you realized, well, maybe there's something going on here. How much did all of those past experiences that you had help you with what you were about to face, or did it help you?
When we first realized he struggled with drugs and addiction, we were like Tweedledee and Tweedledum. We had no clue.
Right.
Being healthcare professionals, we knew the risks, which makes it even more terrifying. We were very ill prepared and really had no idea what we were doing. So I think it's like anything. The greatest thing you can do is find people to support you. And that's why like AA and AID, find people who understand your journey. And I reached out to everybody everywhere and said, I think to say, be vulnerable and say, I need help here. To me, that is the strongest, when we say be strong, be strong enough to say, I can't do this alone. So that's what we had no clue. Clueless.
Yeah, my wife used to tell me like she would stay up some nights just crying because she had no answers. Like she didn't know where to turn. She didn't know what to do. And she really relied heavily on her family to kind of support her in that thing. So, everybody in your life, how much of a support have they been to you? And with everything you're going on with Tyler, how much has everybody kind of helped you in that situation?
Well, here's the elephant in the room. It's wonderful to have family, and our family. I had to really be humbled when he went into his third rehab. That was an expensive one, and say we don't have the money, and my family helped, and like they want to support us every way they can. They don't I mean, unless you're in it, it's hard to, hard to understand. When I think it's really important to let people know what you need from them and what role they can play. Like my wonderful mother would always be like, if you want to talk to me about this, and I'd say, Mom, it's your grandson and you're so close. You are devastated as well. I'm sorry to say, I don't mean to be mean, but this will not be helpful. I would reach out to my dear now friend at Families for Addiction Recovery. Your wife, geez, that would have been so helpful back then. Families for Addiction Recovery. I found this online, and you could call anytime and speak to someone who has that lived experience, right? So I spoke to someone who had a son in addiction with addictions and everything. And she got it, and she gave me so many great tips. And the best one was radical acceptance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's always so hard, like when I help, I'm trying to help a person I used to work with right now. I'm trying to help their daughter who's really struggling. And it's super, super hard because sometimes, with all the experience that I have, with all of the things that I've gone through in my life and all the people that I've seen come through the doors of recovery rooms, sometimes, you just don't have the answers, and sometimes you have to rely on, the person that's, it really, at the end of the day, it's that person who's struggling with it. It's whether or not they want to stay sober. It's whether or not they want to continue doing it. There's nothing you can say or do sometimes that will change that person's mind or change that person's, ideals. What's your relationship right now with Tyler? How's that? Like, is he mad at you? Does he love you for like doing what you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Our relationship is so great, actually, because what I realize, and I know you know this, having a compassionate community and belonging and meeting people where they're at is the most critical thing. And I had to learn that. So he knows, like even when he was here, I mean, I would support him in every way I could. I would call like Canadian Mental Health Association. I had a counselor there. I had Sydney, and I'm like, he's been gone for 3 days. And they'd say, don't shame him when he can't comes home. He already feels shame. Ask him if he's okay, and don't. So he knew that I was doing everything that I could to love him through this as best as I could. And I continue to do that. And when he relapsed, or he's had, I've learned about trap houses and DOC, drug of choice, and like about lapses and relapses. When he's relapsed or, had a lapse, he will tell me, and I'll say, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm not disappointed in you. I'm disappointed for you. I know how hard you've tried, and you continue to try. Don't give up on yourself. And I continued, like Dax Shepard says, he just lives out loud and recovers out loud as well. And he says, never quit quitting. And I'll just say, never quit quitting, Ty, you're worth it. And I mean, obviously, I just want to say, oh my God, don't do drugs again. And like, it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying because we all understand. We've all dieted and said, done well for weeks. And then we dove into a gallon of ice cream. And that, right. And we felt so much shame. The challenge with this is that it can end your life instead of, gaining a pound. And Tyler's drug of choice, first I thought it was pot, I learned it was cocaine, and then he told me it was crack. I mean, that's absolutely terrifying to me.
Yeah.
I knew if I didn't do something to, empower myself and radical acceptance, acknowledge and allow my feelings, I wouldn't survive this.
It's a lot. It's some days I even was wondering how I woke up, like how am I still living? I watched a couple of your episodes, with the show you had, Real Life Talks, and in one episode, I don't know if you remember it, but you spoke about plan and prepare method, and you really were like kind of big on that. So a two-part question. How did your plan and prepare method help you in this situation? And then the second part is with Tyler, like how did that did you get lost anywhere, or was it like did you have to like lean on other people for that? And also, because you're a pretty positive person, like your background says gratitude, activity living, proactivity living. What kind of toll has this all taken on you?
I will tell there's been times where I've I've got this, I'm so together, and other times I'm an absolute hot mess on the floor, disaster. And I've had to lean on people for sure. I just know lean on the right people so that I can actually, create that safe space for me to be a hot mess without trying to fix me. And that's a really important thing as well, right? Those people and that will be able to advise me and bring me to where I need to be, as opposed to like, oh my God, this is so hard and I don't know how you do it. Like, that's great, and I need some guidance, right? So my whole big thing is now I say PPE, which used in COVID was personal protective equipment. I say be proactive, practice, and teach by example. So I'm obviously talking about planning and preparing. Normalize these hard conversations. What makes hard conversations harder is not having them. And you need to find your right people to have them with, that can create that safe space, that community. And you know what? When you're not just showing up for yourself at first and being your best, they're going to let you know, right?
Yeah.
If you see something, say something. And, along the way, I believe like our compassionate communities, we all need to play a part. We can't leave addiction to, oh, well, that's the professionals and they're taking care of that. Everybody needs to be a part. What they need is compassion, love, and support.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this has been a great talk. I think people at home are going to get a lot from this, because it is a different side of the coin. And so I really enjoyed your share today. Really grateful that you're here. One quick thing before you go: it says gratitude on your back wall. Give me one good thing you're grateful for today.
I am absolutely, completely grateful for this show, my friend, because I think that you're going to want me back. And I am so grateful that you are having these conversations, right? That's the only way to shine a light, help people have a better understanding of addiction. I binged your shows. People are, we have to see that people are doing their very best and that they can do better. So let's just approach with curiosity and compassion and just show up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to Canadian Sober. I hope you got something out of that. I definitely did. Peace and love wherever you are. Keep on the right track, Tyler. I hope you get through this, buddy, and stay sober, everybody.